regular filter wrenches. This was really handy for a lot of different things when you can't get a strap wrench around something. I use this a lot. It works really good. It's a Matco. I use this one a lot, which you put on a 1/2-inch drive and it smashes around the filter. You can have a 1-foot extension or a ratchet right on the head of it. It works really well, especially on a truck where you got a truck frame involved, where you got to get the filter down out of the truck frame. This is my favorite. This one right here, I'm telling you what, it's a rigid, and if it doesn't take it off, nothing will take it off. It's a number 5 rigid, and it gets around a great big filter, and you've got a lot of leverage. And I find myself, as long as that filter's out in the open, I find myself using this wrench almost on everything, especially on Caterpillar, things like that. This is a 1/2-inch drive strap wrench. It works good on trucks. You wrap it around your filter, you wind it up until it gets tight, and then 1/2-inch drive goes in the end of it. Takes your filter off. But between the big pliers and the strap wrench is 99% of what I use all the time. I've got another pair of pliers over there I'll show you here in a second that's smaller. They work awesome too. But just to show you a few of these filter wrenches here. So here's my other toolbox with filter wrenches, and you'll see these pliers how much smaller they are than that other pair. But if you can sneak in there and get a hold of it, you know, it works real well. There's another one of those strap wrenches. A lot of these are for like automotive, where they fit right on the bottom of the filters. Another style of a strap wrench. Chain wrench, sometimes you can run a chain wrench around them. But just all different kinds of filter wrenches. Getting the right one to fit the particular situation that you're in, that's the main thing. So I bought this air compressor. I bought a pair of them. This one was, they're both Atlas Copcos. This one's a 110 cubic feet a minute screw compressor, and the other one is 130 feet a minute screw compressor. And it looks like the other one melted itself down. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. I've been working on this one trying. I got all the hoses changed, and I got everything hooked up. I've got the engine running. But somebody had came in here and like they sabotaged it, and they cut all the cooling lines from the compressor. They cut them in half. I spliced them back together. Didn't look like it had any maintenance in years. But I put some par oil in it. I put about 2.5 gallons of par oil in the receiver tank here. And now what I want to do, you can see the date on that filter is 3/15. What I want to do now is I'm going to take and I'm going to change out that filter with a brand new one. And then we're going to take it and I'm going to show you what that tool in there that I have is made for. Let you watch it work. One thing I always like to do is always like to write the date and the hours on my filters. That way, if somebody's having a problem with the fuel system, they come out, they look at the thing, and they're trying to figure out what's going wrong with it. They can look at the hour meter and they can look at a filter and say, well, shoot, it's only got 20 hours on it. It can't be a fuel filter. Or it's got 300 hours on it. Let's put a fuel filter on it first. So it makes a big difference when you're trying to pay attention to what's going on. So always put a date and put the hours on your filters so that the next person can understand what's going on here. So a lot of people, they look at this thing and they say, what is that for? It's to cut filters open and take them apart and look at them and see if you can find out what's going on. So this one came off of that air compressor out there, and we're going to cut the top out of it. We're going to go in there and look at it, and we're going to see what's in it, because I don't know any history on that machine whatsoever, whether it was, you know, somebody just decided to junk it. I really don't know what the deal is with it. Well, I'm wanting to make a compressor of it, so I want to see. I'm going to look in here and see, is this filter going to be full of metal shavings or what's going on with it. So what I want to do is I want to look between all these pleats of paper and see if I see any big chunks of metal. I don't really see a lot of metal shavings in there. I see a lot of dirt. But I don't see a lot of metal shavings in there at all. Which brings me to the next part here. You know, a lot of places like Caterpillar, if you've got something with extended powertrain warranty, they require you to pull an oil sample every 6 months and send it to them so that they can look at it to see if they're having any type of a failure. This will pull a vacuum on it. You change the length of your little hose. You fill the sample jar up, not all the way full, but just up to the top of where your pipe comes down into. Take the sample and label it what it's for and send it to Caterpillar. The other thing you can do, a lot of newer equipment has a sampling device already on the machine. So you get one of these little guys here and you'll see the little pin sticking out. You start the thing up, you get it running. You poke that in the hole of the hydraulic system or the engine or whatever you're taking a sample of. Watch it fill your jar. When it fills your jar up about 2/3 of the way, just unplug it. Take your sample jar and send it off. Really handy that you can do that. You don't have to stop, bleed the pressure off the hydraulic tank or anything. You just check it on the run. So two good tools right there for taking samples. If you know, and there's a lot of places that do sample. Caterpillar does them, John Deere does them, Mobil does them, a lot of oil companies do them, and I don't know what it costs anymore. It used to be $20, $25, something like that. It's probably $30, $35 now. But if you had any doubt of your engine, you can take a sample. A lot of times what they want is they want a trend line. So they want to look and see what kind of oil you're using, whether it's a, you know, a lot of oil is high in copper. So if you're running an oil that's high in copper and your copper content comes back high, and that sends off a red flag, well, some oils have high copper content. So you really got to watch what kind of oil you're using. You know, so if you're using like a Mobil Delvac oil, and you send your sample to Mobil and you tell them you're using Mobil Delvac, they know exactly what you've got. If you've got a Caterpillar engine oil and you tell them you're using Caterpillar engine oil, they know exactly what you've got. But if you're using some other kind of oil and then you send it to a different place, they're not going to have a trend line as to what's in that sample. Just something to think about there. So the next thing I want to show you is our filter crusher. So when we service something, we drain our oil filters for 24 hours. After they drain, I built a homemade filter crusher. We crush them all the way down. We squeeze all the extra oil out of them that gets trapped underneath. I'll show you that. And then the filters go in the scrap iron pile, and the waste oil goes through our waste oil heater. So we don't really waste anything. So I'll take you over there and I'll show you that waste oil, or the oil filter crusher. So this right here is my filter crusher that I made. And what I do is I've got a fitting on the back right here that I put compressed air in, and I close the ball valve. and it'll last for, well, I don't know, a couple of weeks. It'll store that air in the bottom side of that cylinder, and then I use a Porta-Power that's wore out. This thing, it only makes about 3,000 pounds now instead of 10,000 like it used to. So I retired it from using it on my Porta-Power to powering my filter crusher. So if you want to pick it up, move it around, I got a lift and lug on the top. Otherwise it sits on a couple of 6x6s. And inside you'll see there's 2 drain holes in there. And I try to put my filters right over the top of them so that the oil drains out. Underneath of that, I'll put this one in there first. Underneath of that is a catch pan. So that's about the 1R0716, that's a D8 oil filter. That's about the biggest you can put in there. You still got an inch room. I keep this little door so that nothing comes flying out. I just put a bolt in it. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. And then down here on the bottom, that's your catch pan. So any oil that gets squeezed out of these filters goes right into that pan. So when them filters come out of there, they're bone dry and they go in the scrap iron bin. So I welded a shoe on the top that follows all 4 sides. It's an inch thick and it follows all 4 sides, and it pivots on these 2 pivots, one on each side. That's a 6-inch cylinder. It's got a lot more than what I need here to crush filters with, but it works really well. So remember, there's 2 filters in there right now. Now the air that's in the cylinder is what's retracting it. And you fill it about, I don't know, I fill it maybe once a month. I usually crush filters about every week or something like that. But that's what's retracting it now, is the air that's on the other side of the cylinder. There's your 2 filters. Nothing left in them. Crushed them completely out. I put so many in it one day, I crushed them all, and it was like a big pancake in there. They all crushed together, and I had to get a pry bar in there and pry them out.